Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is 2 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for those of you who are able to join us this afternoon. We look forward to a very good conversation for ESG and sustainability. Um, you're going to leave here today better equipped than how you came in, with knowing how to deal with some of these issues. My name is Dale Steenbergen. I'm President CEO of the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce. This is just a very exciting issue, I think, that we're talking about today. As we're talking about bringing landowners and businesses and nonprofit organizations and others all together to work on soil quality and to work on carbon capture has great opportunity for, I think, a number of different businesses. Certainly a great opportunity for our ag community. Certainly a great opportunity for businesses who are socially aware, who are looking for better ways to serve their communities and enhance the lifestyle and quality of life in their communities. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce Lou Harmon, engineer with Western R&D.
Well, good afternoon. I see some melting out there. That's kind of encouraging after a week of Canadian Arctic blast around here. We're looking forward to the day. So I'll hand it back to Dale here, and you can take it from here.
I just don't know what you're talking about, Lou. I'll take some more of that cold, for goodness sake. I've only been chopping ice for the last week. It's time to do something different, I think. So I wouldn't mind a little warmth at this time, but I'm guessing with the hay prices I'm paying right now to enjoy a little moisture, perhaps a little break on that next fall. Well, welcome everyone. This webinar is presented by the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce, along with the Carbon Asset Network, Encore Green Environmental, and Synergy for Ecological Solutions. I think very excited to know that we have a special guest that's joining us, at least virtually, and we have a message from Governor Mark Gordon of Wyoming, who wants to introduce you to this topic. So we'll cue that video.
Good morning and welcome. You're joining a webinar hosted by Encore Green that is bound to be very informative and forward-looking. I appreciate the opportunity to welcome you and have a few minutes of your time today. We all know that Wyoming is facing a vast number of challenges, seemingly from all directions. The Biden administration seeks to end all fossil fuel use, or at least that appears to be in their agenda. I believe that view is short-sighted, though, and misguided. Coal, oil, and gas can be part of the solution to climate change. Wind and solar have impacts just like everything else, and we must take a very objective, very fair look at all these things in concert. The president may want to run a climate litmus test for all our traditional energies, but if he does, he better take a hard look at the consequences of removing them. You know, I remain hopeful that some in the administration will see the value of fossil fuels and these industries, especially with regard to what they have already done to approach the carbon capture issue. I also believe that they will realize the value of our open spaces and our ranches and farmers, stewards of some of the most precious places we have. Farmers and ranchers have long understood the dynamics of soils, crops, and carbon. Even without knowing it, they were doing it. This is where you all come in. The ecosystems our farmers, ranchers, and scientists help manage are carbon capture facilities already. Soil health is at the very base of nearly all of our ecosystem issues. Whether we're talking about rangeland setting or a furrowed field, it all comes back to the soil. I firmly believe that our producers are among the best in the nation, and they can lead the way to increased carbon capture. I also believe we should lead the nation. A combination of sound agricultural practices, many of which we already do, and mechanical carbon capture can help our economy keep our mineral industry strong. The economic beneficiaries include individuals, the state as a whole, and even our nation and the globe. Simple changes can have dynamic and dramatic effects, both good and bad. And that's why today's webinar is so important. We all need to learn together to maintain our way of life, and that starts with events like this. As we approach these new issues, we must remember where we've come from and capitalize on the wealth of knowledge we already have, whether it's from our university, our industries, or the ag community. They all are important. Again, thank you for allowing me to put in my 2 cents this morning, and thank you for joining this webinar. I look forward to our collective future success. Good morning and welcome. You're joining
And now we'll go to Jeff Holder with Synergy for Ecological Solutions, and also pretty good with the PowerPoint deck. Jeff, you up?
I am. Here we are. Very good. We welcome all of you for joining us today. We appreciate your time and your attendance. And we're here to talk about something that is pretty exciting, and I think that you will find exciting as well by the time we get through it. What we're really talking about here are a number of groups of people coming together for a common cause. The common cause, and you'll hear this a lot, is climate wellness through soil health. Climate wellness through soil health. That's what we're talking about. We're grateful to the Chamber for hosting this for us. We got 3 groups here that we've named them. Carbon Asset Network is a for-profit company that is a collection, a network of people who manage land. That might be a farmer, a rancher, or someone who's working a golf course, right? We got lot of land, and it's those people who manage it. That's a part of the network. Down below, you'll see S4ES. That's Synergy for Ecological Solutions. That's a registered 501c3 nonprofit that raises money for climate wellness through soil health. And you'll see how they fit into this whole new paradigm of how we do these kinds of things. Encore Green Environmental is a company that comes alongside Carbon Asset Network, especially as it might relate to water issues and the need of trying to get more water onto our soil. So that's how these groups work together. All right. The program that we're introducing today, that we're talking about today, is called U360. It's called U because no matter who you are on this call, you don't have to be a rancher, you don't have to be a civic leader, you don't have to own a big business. No matter who you are, you can be part of the solution. And we call it 360 because it's a big circle, because we call this really a total ecological solution that pulls all people together, and it kind of creates a new whole out of the different pieces. We say it's a new dimension because it's not what you think. Like probably when you joined up and registered for this webinar, you had in your mind carbon credits, you had in your mind carbon farming, carbon sequestration. You might think about Al Gore, right? You might think about an article you read on LinkedIn, just a couple of days ago. What I want you to do is to take those ideas and kind of set them aside for a little bit and let us explain to you kind of a new way of approaching this. It may be the best way for us to tell you who we are is almost to say what we aren't, right? U360, it's not about carbon credits, okay? That idea is out. Instead, you'll see on the right, what it is, it's a donation model. On the left, it's not protocols from cap and trade. Instead, what it is, it has manageable protocols. Cap and trade protocols are very difficult for a land steward to actually execute. the land gets locked up 5, 10 years. There's a very narrow definition of what's making carbon capture happening. We have manageable protocols that are designed to work in the real world and not more of a theoretical world. It's not one size fits all program. A lot of land programs or carbon programs say, here's the program, do you want in, right? What we're saying is we're actually building this program customizable for each of the people, each of the land stewards who are part of it. So it's customized. Right? It's not a government program. It's private sector. And somehow we have to have a source of revenue. And that revenue is, if you go to the top, it's a donation model. It's not tax dollars that are being handed for carbon credits. A whole other different kind of a plan. It's bringing together two different groups of people. We call them change agents, those who want to help the environment, and land stewards, those who manage the land. And you see, this works well with our mission statement, really is, because we want climate wellness through soil health. People who want to try to change the environment and those who manage soil, right? And you on the webinar fit in either one or both of these categories. Let's talk about change agents for a minute, okay? Change agents are people, like I said, who want to help the environment. 76% of Americans say climate change is a crisis or a major problem. The millennial generation is probably the first generation that was raised since they were in diapers being told there's something wrong with our planet. The climate change is causing all sorts of problems. The oldest millennial is now 40 years old. They're no longer the college students, right? They're owning businesses. They're raising families. They're working land. They are us, if you want to think of it that way. There's a lot of people who are very, very concerned and want to do something about the environment. In fact, it's no longer really just only in the urban areas, no longer just people in San Francisco. In fact, there was a study that was just released today, just read it just before the webinar, that 11 years ago, a survey was done of Western United States, and it was, how do you feel about climate change and the environment? Is it a problem? And 17% of people in Wyoming, I'm kind of highlighting Wyoming because this webinar is originating out of Wyoming. 17% said it's a problem. And that's kind of a small number compared to other states. Well, that was 11 years ago. Today, 32% of people in Wyoming say that climate change and climate concerns are a major problem. And actually, of all the Western states, Wyoming is still the lowest number in that. This is a growing thing. It's in the suburbs, it's in the cities, it's in rural America. People are concerned about the environment, but here's the problem. There's nothing that they can do about it. They're told, hey, simple ideas. Oh, just recycle your trash, right? How is that going to help, right? They're told to eat vegan, buy local. These are very small changes, and the scope of what is being talked about is so huge and enormous. And the main thing they're told about is just, well, wait on the government to do something, right? Or protest big oil, something like that. That's what we're kind of told to do. And yet, people are wanting to do something. And the U360 program is that thing. It's tangible action they can take. So that's one half. That's the change agent. The other is the land steward. And it's many farmers and ranchers are desiring regenerative ag practices. People who manage lots of land, like a collection of golf courses or a collection of parks. They want to do better in terms of increasing soil health and making things working better. But usually you need a new source of financing, because the thin margins of agriculture and the unpredictability of agriculture in general is going to make it really hard to make significant transitions. And so we look normally to the government to help. But a lot of the USDA programs that are good, we're not knocking the programs, it's just that 40% of the ag community says it's just too burdensome. 28% say it's just too difficult. There's no program that lets the agriculturist create their own program toward regenerative ag practices that will fit what they want to do on their land with their goals, except for U360. So that's what we got. We got 3 groups, 1 program, all with the same mission: climate wellness through soil health. So how does that get accomplished, right? Climate wellness, soil health. You don't usually think of, I got to do something about the sky, too much carbon up there, right? But really the answer is kind of like right beneath our feet. Because photosynthesis is just that thing we learned about, right? In school, we all know what this is. And yet it's overlooked as being really the solution. Photosynthesis simply takes through, if you got water, you got some sunshine, you got soil, you got vegetation. What photosynthesis does is it pulls the carbon dioxide out of the air and traps it in the roots and soil of the vegetation. It releases instead oxygen out into the land, out into the air. Now, that's a very simplistic view of photosynthesis. And during our Q&A session, if you want to get more, if you need more clarification, we have our agronomist, Neil Farringer, with us, who will be able to kind of clarify that beyond the 4th grade version of photosynthesis that I'm giving you. But really, this is what the key is. You know, Elon Musk has just offered $100 million for someone who can build a machine to pull carbon from the air. Well, we don't need a machine because nature already has her machine. It's photosynthesis, and it starts with soil health. You increase the soil health, you increase the photosynthesis, you decrease the amount of carbon that's in the air. It's just the natural way to do things. So here's where you can find yourself in this circle, in this 360 circle here. So we're going to start at the top and kind of go clockwise around here and tell you kind of how the process for the U360 program works. It starts at the top with a change agent. And that change agent might be an individual who raises their hand and say, hey, I want to donate money towards soil health projects in order to help climate wellness. I want to do that. It might be a family. They're going to make this a family commitment, a family project that they're going to do. And if they do that, then Synergy for Ecological Solutions will give them reports, tell them stories, show them how it's all working. It might also be a change agent, might also be a business. And that could be a very small business that knows that their consumers are increasingly wanting them to have a commitment to a do good aspect to their business. They provide a service and a product, but they also want there to be positive things happening, even in the smallest business. And it certainly is working in the very Fortune 500 companies, where they're getting shareholder pressure that says, we love it when you pay us money on our dividends. We want you to do that. But at the same time, we also want you to be accomplishing something good for our world. So a change agent donates to S4ES, the nonprofit, and in turn, they get a tax-deductible receipt. The nonprofit then receives those funds and makes grants to, as you continue down on the circle, to Carbon Asset Network, to this collection, this network of people who are managing land. That money goes toward soil health projects. It funnels over to land stewards, who then are able to apply better practices, maybe new equipment, maybe new ways of doing things that will increase the soil health of the land, which then increases the photosynthesis, right? And the commitment is that at least 70%, close to 70% of that money it's donated at the top, and it circles around. It's going to 70% is going to end up for the landowner to execute the program. It doesn't cost the land steward anything to be a part of the program. Those costs are what's taken out before for the soil testing, the data imaging, all the things to kind of get it working. Okay? So the land steward does their thing that they do. And Encore Green Environmental is able to come alongside and be able to, if possibly in some situations with some soil health projects, be able to work out sources of water for this. And and Encore Green also is able to kind of help with land stewards with other industry and businesses around them. That greater soil health then leads to greater vegetation. Greater vegetation leads to greater climate wellness. Greater climate wellness makes the change agent say, hey, this is working, right? And the circle all starts all over again. You're somewhere in this circle. You might be in more places than one. And what we want to do is really just offer to you an opportunity for you to be a part of it. So let's just kind of talk about different people and how different categories of people and how they can interact with U360. Let's just start with the individual and the family, okay? Through donations, they can empower land stewardship. They can empower climate wellness, right? And it's the kind of things that a lot of individuals and families want to do as a way to tell their children, hey, we want to give back. We want to be a part of something positive. We want to train our children to do that. So it's a family thing in many cases, but an individual can donate to try to accomplish that. John, I'm going to turn over to ask John Robitaille. John is the director of the Carbon Asset Network Plan and also works with a lot of civic leaders and government leaders. John, talk to us a little bit about how maybe chambers of commerce, cities, towns, community leaders, how can they interact with this program?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Really, the program is set up for all the constituents, whether that be a chamber constituent, a local government constituent, or any of the community leaders. Anytime any of these change agents choose to donate, or perhaps they have parks or golf courses or ranches of their own and want to join as a land steward, these opportunities are tremendous and very well informed to bring money into the community. What we do is once that money is handed over to the land steward, we would highly recommend that money be spent at the local feed store, perhaps the local weed and pest, county weed and pest. At any rate, it would stay in the community, which is really critical these days, particularly with our current environment, where really folks aren't going out a whole lot because of the virus. So in my mind, the more that we can get any of our local community leaders, whether that be local government or chamber of commerces or whatever, to spread the word and even donate or join as a land steward, that money is coming back into your community and will likely stay there if we can actually get going and get this money out to our land stewards.
Right, and just as each of these kinds of people who are community leaders, perhaps government, they are able to provide their constituents with this empowerment. As we said at the very top, there are people who want to know how they can do something to help the climate, to help climate wellness. They want to know how they can do that. And we will be happy to, as the nonprofit S4ES, we'll be happy to come alongside you. We'll host webinars and do something like this, do a show and tell for your own local community. We'll provide you photo assets, digital assets, whatever you need to spread the word, because your constituents would love to hear from you about how you can help them do the thing that they want to do. So that's how communities, towns can get involved. The other folks are the land stewards, and we talked a lot about them already. But John, maybe you could tell us just a little bit more of how the program works from the point of view of a land steward.
Certainly. So As a land steward, someone who is enrolled in our program, is a partner in CAN. We come out and test the soil and review the operation, and then work together to come up with a customized plan. Now that plan, it may include things like additional water or need for herbicides or perhaps a different fencing operation or something along those lines. Whatever it may be, it's customized to that specific operation. Now, this money would come in on a yearly basis to these land stewards, and they would be encouraged. It's not directly affecting the participation in the plan if you don't follow your customized plan, but it's definitely encouraged, as we believe that when we come back in the next year and test the soil again against our baseline, we will have an opportunity to show improvement of soil health, which in turn we believe will garnish more donations to S4ES so that soil can continue to grow. Now, Jeff, I want to make a point that I've been in one capacity or another. I've been representing oil and gas for the last 20 plus years. Over those years, I've seen the relationship between agriculture and industry start to strain on a broad sense. We've seen it in our local legislatures. We've seen it in individuals working on surface use agreements, that sort of thing. In my mind, offering the use of good, clean water to a landowner in such an arid country as Wyoming, those relationships can only mend. Additionally, if a oil and gas company were to participate by donating to S4ES, I believe that would go a long way to improving relations, not only with the general public, but more specifically with our agricultural partners. I just wanted to throw that out. But overall, we believe that we can solve and improve soil health in the long term through this program and through our land steward partners.
Great, yeah. So let's talk about business and industry. Marvin Nash from Encore Green Environmental is on, and I think Marvin, you wanted to say a little bit about business and industry and how they can be a part of this.
Thank you, Jeff. I really want to thank the governor for his comments, and I want to thank the chamber before we get very far down the road here to allow us and see some of the necessity. You know, business has changed in the boardroom, and in the boardroom, like Jeff referred to earlier, they're being asked to, sure, they want their dividends, but they want to know what you're doing. And I saw some data from Bill Gates, who said he paid $7 million annually for tax credits or carbon credits to offset the jets and the cars and that's great that he's got $7 million to use that for. He said he was paying $400 a ton, and my immediate question was, well, how much of that $400 made its way back to the land steward? I come from an agriculture background way down in South Texas, where water was so precious like it is in Wyoming. And that's where we actually got started with an industry to repurpose and put water to beneficial use. But at the end of the day, what do we need to do more than get that income back to the land steward? I talked to a gentleman one time, sold $140,000 worth of carbon credits, and he got his check and it was $70,000. And he said, well, where'd the other 70 go? And they said, well, that went to the middleman that traded your tax credits and did your carbon credits and cap and trade and all that other kind of stuff. I told that gentleman, I said, when I can make this thing work from an industrial side, I assure you, we're not going to take 70%. We're not going to take 50%. Every penny that's available needs to go back to that other industry, which is the ag industry. We've talked a lot about water in some of this and being able to make that happen. And I'm going to ask Lou Harmon, who helped us in the very beginning with permitting and stuff. I'm going to let Lou comment about the safety of the water and how to make that water a viable product. Because, you know, you have different water laws nearly east and west of the 98th meridian, but water is one of the key components that helps drive all of this. So Lou, I know you've worked on this a long time. We've had a hot tea or two, and you've shared with me that this has always been one of your desires for us to stop wasting water. But there's a real concern about liability and safety and how to do it. So can you comment about that part of it for us?
Okay, I'll take a shot at it here. First thing, this is the blue planet. You know, 70% or more of the Earth's surface is covered with water. And water is water, but water is a universal solvent. So the problem with water is it's always picking up things that aren't desirable. And we've got the technology today to take those dissolved ingredients back out of the water so we can use it as water for growing a crop or drinking or whatever. In terms of liability, it seems to me that we're much better off to treat this water. And Encore Green's developed a unique approach to water treatment different than about anybody else. And Encore Green uses a batch approach. They get a batch of water, they treat the water and put it into a holding tank and then test it to make sure that it's all good. All other water treatments flow through process where you depend upon the treatment process and you take a sample once a day or twice a day or however often you want, but the water in between samples isn't tested. The Encore Green is a batch process. You test it, you know exactly what you got, and then you take it out and you use it for what it was meant for, namely to grow another crop. So this simplifies it. The energy companies have suffered a great deal of pain in Wyoming and other places. You're not required to particularly test your water before you put it down a disposal well, but now we're beginning to discover, and in fact have known for the last 60 years, if you put too much water down a disposal well, you're going to create problems with earth movement, or we call them earthquakes. So in terms of liability, I think the Encore Green approach really minimizes it with this batch testing. We know what we got, we take it out and we use it for what it's meant for, and it's not left slopping around to cause a problem to come back to bite somebody. So it's a good approach. And instead of having wastewater, we have reclaimed water or treated water, whatever you want to call it. And good grass grows good beef, and I do like a steak.
Thank you, Lou. You know, it's all. I had a conversation with a gentleman mentor last week, and I had kind of lost sight of where we were going. And I said, Jim, what's happened here? What am I missing? He said, Marvin, you came to this idea with different industries coming together. The environmentalists have their concerns. They're very legitimate. They need to be addressed. The agriculturists, they have their concerns. They're trying to be land stewards. You have energy companies and mines and factories and those kind of people. They have their concerns. They're trying to make a profit. But the objective was to bring all of those people together, not to talk politics, not to demean each other, but to come together as a community and as a group to take care of our kids and our grandkids. And that's what this webinar is really about. It's about how, at the end of the day, have we done successful things. love Bill Gates, proud of his success. Elon Musk, $100 million, 2025 on Earth Day. Sounds kind of like a big promotion to me, but I'm a little narrow-minded about that. We want to work with our community partners, with our change agents, with our land stewards, and we want to start in the morning. We've spent, Neil Farringer spent a week last week and a half ago. He started out, he was going to go get benchmarks for 300 acres in Lander. That ended up being 650. He went to the next land steward. They were going to do 500 acres. He drove out of there that afternoon after testing 6,500 acres. He went to the next one. That turned into 5,000 acres. He went to the next one. That was another 6,500. By Friday afternoon, we had MOUs and land stewards that had pledged nearly 20,000 acres for soil health and permeability and climate wellness. And that was in 1 week. Now it's time for the 360, the U360 to get implemented and go forward. So, Jeff, I'll leave it at that if you want to get to the next part, but I think that's what, that's what we're here about. We're here about to make a difference, not starting in 2025. We want to make a difference starting in the morning.
Yeah, that's great. And so as businesses, you can be a part of the solution, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or you're a small, tiny little retail storefront thing. Consumers these days want to know what you're doing as a part of your business for positive, for ESG, environmental stewardship governance. This is a great way to meet those goals. It's really like it's almost like there's this hero badge sitting on the table, and you can pin it on your company just by joining up with U360. It's opportunities for businesses to create better relationships, and it's really a way for the larger companies to have the goals of the ESG goals of the boardroom actually connect and build a bridge to actually the boots on the ground operations people. So there's just so many ways that businesses can come alongside, industry can come alongside. It might be you provide a service or a product that land stewards could use. Maybe that's somehow part of it. We would love to just explore with you and brainstorm with you a little bit about how you can interact with U360 with your particular industry or your particular business. Before we go to questions, I just want to say the best next step, right? If you're kind of saying, hey, this kind of sounds like an idea, maybe I'd like to talk about it. You don't have to sign up on anything, just we can have a conversation. Here's the website, here's a email, here's a phone number. If you just contact me, I'll route you to the right person. Like you wanted to contact ask John a question or Marvin a question, you got a question for the agronomist Neil, just I'm the doorway, talk to me and I'll get it to the right people. We'd love to brainstorm with you. We're on the front end of this. And so now is the opportunity to really craft how your business, your community, or you and just your family can be a part of climate wellness through soil health. So what we'd love to do is to take any questions. If you have any now, the best way to do it, just raise your hand, turn on your camera, do something like that. Write down the phone number. I'm going to stop sharing the camera here. So do we have anybody that has any questions or thoughts they want to ask?
Well, Jeff, this is Neil Farringer. Okay, before we go to the questions, what I'd like to do is, as business say, why this program, and you've laid it out rather well. But I've put together a 2-column sheet, compared our program versus others, and why this program is in a league of its own, and it's the most user-friendly. It fits the businesses small to large, as well as the individuals, as you pointed out. It is a year-to-year commitment, as we've talked about. Instead of other programs require you to sign up for 10 years and follow the protocols. So that's pretty, you mentioned that 5 to 10 years, but I've only seen it at 10 years as I've reviewed a number of these programs. They are tracking carbon sequestration only, in only the top 6 inches, or as they list, 15 centimeters, which is roughly 6 inches. We are tracking a full soil test parameters, which will include the carbon sequestration. And in addition, we are doing a soil health test on the 0 to 6 inch depth. And we're sampling 0 to 6 and 6 to 24. In a number of samples we took in the Douglas area last spring, the amount of carbon that was in the 6 to 24 was generally right around the same amount that was in the 0 to 6. And we know that plants, even range plants out where the moisture is just, it's a natural precipitation situation, that they will root to 24 inches. And so if we're taking carbon dioxide out of the air and putting it into the plants, they're going to use it for 2 purposes: to grow above ground vegetation and also add to their roots. And the more above ground vegetation that is grown, more roots are added. And so why not look at that additional 18 inches from 6 to 24 inches? We also, many of them are also, this is a comparison that in the protocol, soil sampling protocol, we will waypoint every soil sampling point. And so we can go back to those same number of sampling locations, and that gives us a better way to track it. But the key is we're looking at not only carbon, but also the soil health. The soil health test, which is the one we happen to be using, Cornell University has one, but then this one is the NRCS test developed by Rick Haney, an NRCS employee in Texas, starting, I think, from about 20 years ago. So it's been refined over the years. Will give us a better metrics rather than carbon sequestration, because it's telling us we're having more bacterial activity, and that is going to help with water infiltration, which will then result in more vegetation being produced on an annual basis. John talked about weed control. Well, there's different ways of weed control. You can do mob grazing and kind of basically stomp the weeds right into the ground. We will be prudent about where we will use herbicides, but cheatgrass is very prominent across the Great Plains. Another issue of mentioning the Great Plains is that all the other carbon programs that I've seen deal primarily with farmland. I was on a webinar with, or a Zoom call with Yara, 3 people from Yara, and they're marching out a program to offset their carbon emissions where they can't do any more cutbacks. They are the world's largest fertilizer manufacturer. Their program has 3 tenets to it. The first one is reduced tillage. Well, across the Great Plains, if we're talking about rangeland, the farmers aren't tilling anyway. The second one is planting cover crops. Well, they've got range. They're not planting cover crops unless they're taking some hay out and then going to reestablish it a few years later. The third one is a nitrogen management program, and that one they've only got the protocol set for corn. So their program doesn't work across the Great Plains on rangeland. It mostly doesn't work on non-irrigated farmland, and so that is one. So we are set to fit any type of, John or Jeff mentioned about golf courses. Well, we can do improvements on soil health there, as well as open spaces, just any land. That is the opportunity to, we're going to create, said there, climate wellness through soil health. And let's not stop at carbon sequestration. We're going to take it further. Walter Janney, an Australian agricultural scientist, has said that the issue is that we don't have enough vegetation growth. And if we can increase that by 4%, we would bring the earth back into balance. I mean, you think about, okay, so let's walk across a bare piece of ground in the summer versus even a non-irrigated pasture that's still green. Well, the soil, the temperatures are completely different. So if we can get more vegetation, it's nature's way of nature's air conditioner, essentially, and that will reduce the temperature increases by having more vegetation. And we only have to do it 4%. Is this going to care about the 4%? No, it's not. We feel like it's a major part that's more user-friendly, and we're leaguing our own. So that is what I wanted to add to the conversation today.
Good. Thank you, Neil. Greatly appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions, comments, things that we can address here? And like I said, you can always follow up with us off of our website. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions or comments, was there anything our panelists wanted to say? Last chance before we all go eat lunch or have a late lunch. All right. Well, we're grateful to everybody who came. We appreciate you joining in, and all those who will be watching this after the fact. Like I said, we're always here to try to brainstorm with you to figure out how you can engage with the U360 program. We're grateful to all those who joined, grateful to the Chamber for hosting us. We'll talk to you later.